I'm Julie Bulitt. I've been a family therapist for over 30 years.
I'm David Bulitt. I've been a divorce and family lawyer for more than 35 years.
Together, we have been married for more than 37 years.
In our professional practices, the two of us have been witnesses to individuals and families struggling with life's most difficult challenges. In this podcast, we will talk about the conversations we have had,
The conversations we should have had.
and those that every relationship needs to have in order to find success, happiness, and fulfillment.
This is Conversations for Couples.
The podcast. So today we're talking sex drives, right?
You love to talk sex drive.
Well, specifically in a relationship, how people have different sex drives. The libidos are different and mismatched and don't connect or jive, right?
Yeah. So what I see in my office as a therapist is lots of times couples, many times couples have what we would call mismatched sex drives. And it's completely normal. I mean, I always try to discuss how thirst, everybody's thirsty in a different way. I drink a ton of water during the day. You drink a little bit less water. And if you can think of a sex drive as sort of like a thirst, and it's just people have different varying levels of thirst, then it normalizes, sort of the differences between, partners.
Well, we know it's an issue. I mean, it's an issue for us. I mean, I can't keep you off me half the time.
I know.
It gets annoying.
I know. I'm so sorry, honey.
If only that were the case, boy, what a good problem to have.
Yeah. And I mean, just being honest and vulnerable, we've had some issues around our own, differences in sex drive.
Sure.
I have a lower libido than you do. And we've had to talk about it and work on it over the years.
So, and we know we're going to talk about how people can work through it a little bit, but we know it's an issue. I mean, the funniest example I have was, I guess it's been 5-ish years ago or so, give or take, maybe longer than 5 or 6 years ago. We were in Nashville, right? And we were getting ready to come home. We had a little time to kill. We were in the hotel coffee shop. And, and there was maybe 6 or 8 people. There was a couple sitting at a table, and I get in line to get you and me a cup of coffee. And not 5 minutes later, I come back, you're talking to this couple. And the very first thing I hear him say is, what do you do when you want sex more than your wife does?
Yeah.
So aside from the fact that obviously tells us it was an issue for them, I was always curious as to how you were able to drop that particular line in the water, within about 240 seconds. It's
my
so
natural ability to get people to dive right into personal issues.
Yeah, but why? So we get that there's different thirst levels, but why does it become a problem aside from people aren't having sex as much as they want to, they're having sex too much more than they want to? Why else? What are the other issues that come up, right, in a relationship?
Yeah, well, there's sort of the two sides, right? So if someone wants sex and the other one doesn't, then there is the rejection feeling like, oh, am I not attractive enough? Or have I put on a few pounds? Or have I, do I not look good? Or is this person no longer attracted to me in that way?
Yeah, and I think, and now that I'm a man of a certain age, right? I think, and I can speak, I think for men, I can't speak for women as much because I'm not one, but I think that as men get older, many of us have those concerns. You look back.
Women definitely have those concerns too, honey.
Well, I'm not saying that they don't, but so we can talk about it from both perspectives.
Yeah.
But so I think it's a problem. Certainly a problem as men get older. You get a little bit of a spread. You're not as muscular as you were when you're in your 20s or whatever. And so when you roll over and you're with your partner and you're looking for a little action and they sort of grumble at you, it's not unusual to have feelings that are like, well, what's the problem?
Right. You take it personally.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I think this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but taking that personally is not helpful. Right. And I know we're talking about sex and we're talking about intimacy. So how do you take the, depersonalize it a bit out of that, piece. And I know I know it sounds funny.
That's a hard one when there's something firm sticking up against your back and you tell me to roll back over because you're too tired.
Right.
Hard not to take that personally.
It is hard, isn't it?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
So anyway, yeah. So there's the rejection piece that people feel rejection. And then the flip side, the other side, I think for people is feeling, burdened or annoyed or chased or, the other side of somebody constantly pawing or making sexual innuendos or advances, that can feel a little bit annoying or burdensome.
Put upon, like that's all that they care about.
Yeah.
That it's all that they think about. And it gets in. And then I would imagine that one of the potential reactions or responses to that is that I want to do it even less.
Right.
Because if I do it, it's like give an inch, take a yard.
Well, right. And so this is a part that's happened for me personally, is that since you want sex more, I tend to shy away from even being affectionate sometimes with you, like giving you a hug or paying attention, because sometimes that will then open the door, if you will.
That is such an excuse. You don't like to give hugs anyway.
But part of it is that you give an inch and you take a mile. Is like if I touch you on your shoulder or your leg or whatever, you just automatically think, oh, it's time.
Maybe if you did more of that, then I wouldn't think that. So if you did more, if you were affectionate more frequently, then the response wouldn't be what you're looking for. But because you're affectionate so infrequently, that might be why you say, okay, well, she's only affectionate when she wants to have sex. So that's the other side of the coin. Oh, can we go upstairs?
Oh, yeah. All right. Well,
no, but I mean, that's true. It's true. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, but I also would say to you, and this is, and we've had this happen, where it's caused issues in other situations, right? And this goes beyond the sex, but it goes with the non-sexual intimacy, the touching, the hand on each other's shoulder, whatever it may be. I remember very specifically, maybe 15 years or so ago, and we were out and nothing, and there was nothing inappropriate, but you had your arm around this guy, right? And I'm like,
was he cute?
That's up to you. It was too tall for me. But I mean, so my initial reaction is, what the hell is going on? Okay. She can put her arm around this guy, but I can't get her to as much hold my hand for 30 seconds. And that really bugged me. So
do you need a therapy session for this, honey?
I probably could need a therapy session for a lot of things, but after 37 years of marriage, I got a whole list of issues.
Yes.
No, but seriously.
And we've been together 40 years, by the way.
40, but the first few were like money.
Yeah, they were in the sex department, and then
then they were less money. But all joking aside, I think there's a lot of layers to this issue, to this, to the mismatched sex drive, the intimacy, how, and I want to talk a little bit about how other intimacy in other ways can improve the intimacy, between the sheets, so to speak.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So couples that I've worked with, there's kind of like a twofold situation here. So there's people that have to feel connected and intimate with their partner outside of the bedroom in order to want sex.
Right.
And then there's some couples that actually can just have sex regardless, and it's more of a physical.
Yeah.
And that's always an interesting discussion, right? And then, of course, there's people that have both, and they have to sort of navigate those issues in their relationship. But getting, we've talked about perspective taking before, and I think it's so important for couples to have perspective taking of what their partner wants, of what their partner needs. So I always joke with you, like, if you want to turn me on, foreplay would be, you
taking you to Bloomingdale's
or doing the laundry or vacuuming or helping around the house or taking the kids, out in the morning so I can sleep late.
But it's not a direct link. It's sort of it's an indirect one. So, I mean, it's not like, oh, he's in the laundry room, I'm horny. Right. I mean, it's
Right.
something that makes
But
you feel like I'm doing something for you.
right.
And so maybe that's more that you want to reciprocate, and the washer should be done shortly, by the way.
Yes, the wash, and you better hang up my Lululemon
Oh yeah,
stuff.
I'll hang up your clothes. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. So there's the backdrop of what is going on outside the bedroom.
Right.
What does the relationship look like? How close do you feel to your partner? Do you feel like your partner is paying attention to you in other ways?
Mm-hmm.
And, I also think that it's important perspective taking. Is my partner suffering, from any mental health issues? Is my partner suffering from any physical issues? Is he in pain? Is he, like having difficulties in other places? So it's not just about like, hey, that person's not wanting to have sex. There's more to it. And is that person feeling overwhelmed? Especially as a young mom. I know that there was times that I definitely like sex was the last thing on my mind.
Right.
Right. Like I had been busy with the kids.
Where does it stand now, by the way, when the things on your mind? Is it like higher up?
Oh yeah. I think it's higher. The kids are out more,
That's a little parenthetical there.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think the kids are, I'm not as overwhelmed. And honestly, when I was nursing a baby, sex was a very interesting scenario, which is I felt like I had a baby on my boob on my body all the time. And the last thing I wanted
was me to be nursing,
was you to be, seeking something from my body.
Right.
And so that was a difficult period of time. I know, I would say young parenthood was difficult. And I think it is for most people.
I think a lot of it is. And the hard part is it's hard to talk about, right?
It's
not so easy to talk about because again, feelings can get in the way, and it's hard to have a sort of a benign, non-emotional conversation, about, why don't you want to have sex with me?
Right.
And then you to explain, well, it's not that I don't want to, it's this, or it's that, or,
right.
Whatever it may be. I'm not getting enough sleep because the kids are little.
Right.
I'm stressed at work because this or that, and then it's, again, you got to fight that knee-jerk reaction. It seems to me if you're going to have that discussion, because the knee-jerk reaction to that is, okay, great. So work comes before me.
Right.
Where am I on the list? I joked about it a moment ago, and it was meant to be a joke, but that's
right. And one of the chapters in our book, the 5 Core Conversations for Couples, is around sex, and one of the titles is "It Shouldn't Be a Budget Item."
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think lots of times it has been for me that I feel like, oh, it's something that I have to do. I have to, check it off my list. And that's so unromantic. That's like the opposite of what sex should be. Yeah. However, I will say to you that working with couples, again, sometimes the antidote for the sexual problems that people have is scheduling sex and putting it on your calendar. And I've used this strategy with clients before. Okay. I know it doesn't sound romantic, but sometimes when there's been lack of sex in the relationship and people are willing and able and they want to work on it, sometimes actually putting it on the calendar is not a bad idea.
Well, to be honest with you, it could be sort of a turn-on-y kind of thing. Okay, well, in 3 hours, we got a date kind of
right.
thing.
Friday night, date night.
Whatever it is. So I think, that's a strategy that you've used. Tell people to, you got to make time for this when it's going to be. Although it is an item that's on your list, it might be a way to sort of kickstart things.
Yeah. And the other thing is, again, perspective taking, understanding what your partner needs sexually, understanding what your partner needs for sex to feel, ready for sex. So that, that can also mean, there's a great book. It's called Come As You Are. I can't remember the author, but it really talks about how some people have like heavier breaks in the sex department. And especially I know for me, like I didn't want to have sex when the kids were like right next door in their bedrooms because I felt like, oh, they could hear us or whatever.
Yeah, you're very loud.
Very loud sometimes. So anyway, for me, I was much more free when there wasn't, the kids around. And I think it's really important, like, some people could, get turned on no matter who is around, or maybe they like, they like it.
It doesn't matter to me whether you have whether you have the New York Philharmonic in the other room.
Right. I have different breaks. And so for me to respond, things had to be a certain way.
Okay, but
And again, perspective taking and
Yeah.
understanding how physically all of this works for women and men and all kinds of people, I think is very important.
And what about the idea of, okay, I'm not in the mood, but you are, so I'm going to help you out or give you the opportunity. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it can be a good thing for people to, compromise in the bedroom. And, if you don't if you're not in the mood, but your partner is, there are certainly things you can do to help them out or to participate in a non-participatory way.
Well, you're participating, but you're not, you're just helping them.
Right.
I mean, we can be more specific than that.
Right. Well, we have a chapter in our book called 2 Minutes in a Tissue.
Right.
And that addresses just what we're talking about here, which is like, okay, I'm not in the mood, but you are, let's see what we can do. Right.
Yeah. And usually you could do just fine.
Usually, yes.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then,
just to kind of touch upon other strategies, use of sex toys. And again, everybody's different. Everybody has a different relationship. So if sex toys aren't your thing, don't do it. But using sex toys or porn to kind of spice things up or get people in the mood, that's okay too. I mean, that can be part of your sex life.
A number of things, it seems to me, can sort of sex things up a little bit if both people are interested or willing to try that. Whether it's dressing a certain way. You and I did that one time where we went someplace where we went to a bar together, right? And you went in before me.
Yep.
And we sort of did this little. It was a little bit silly, but we kind of had fun with it. Where I kind of sat down next to you. Yep. We started as if we hadn't met each other before.
Right.
And it worked out good. I mean, I couldn't get.
Yeah, it was fun. It was exciting. It was
Yeah.
different. And that's the other thing is, after being together 40 years, it's hard to keep things fresh in the bedroom.
Yeah.
So it's important that you acknowledge that it's harder, as you're together longer and to make it work.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is that, and we've talked about this, is that doing other things together, and you talk about doing new things, but doing other things together can it also sort of be that connection to, this idea of mismatched libidos, problems in the bedroom, that sort of thing, where you pick something you're going to do. Like we're doing this off the cuff thing this week, right? I mean, now that's not necessarily a connection to sex, but it's a fun, intimate thing where we just decided, well, this is what we're going to do. And we're just jumping and going. Or, we started playing pickleball.
Yeah. Where we do new things together.
New
right.
things, yeah.
Right. So sort of we talked about the lubrication in relationships, and lubrication, just like, a car needs lubricant, needs oil, needs, for the brakes to work fully. Relationships need lubrication, and you can get, lubrication from doing things together, from being intimate outside the bedroom, which can lead to helping couples be intimate inside the bedroom. Now, I see a lot of times in my office, I'm really surprised and shocked sometimes. People go years and years and years without having sex. And what happens is it becomes just so much more difficult to even address and talk about.
Right.
And, the one thing that I would say is, if that's happened in your relationship, you got to, do you want to spend the rest of your relationship with this person without having sex? If the answer is a firm no, then you got to do something about it.
Right. Well, I mean, some people, because of health reasons or whatever it may be, can't, and that's built into a relationship.
Absolutely.
People can still be very much in love and have a wonderful relationship, and that's just not part of it because whatever it is.
Yeah, there's physical, emotional issues.
You're talking about squaring that out for a second. You're talking about other folks who don't have those issues necessarily.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I used to make a joke that I started to get an itch if I started to tick or whatever if I went 4 or 5 days, and it was and so I think it is. I think and like I've said before, it's not the most important. We talked about this, but I do think it's greases the wheels.
Yeah, and for you, it's very important.
Yeah.
For me, I would say it's a little less important, but I have to raise the bar if it's important to you, and I want you to be happy in the relationship.
Isn't that so sweet?
So sweet.
Maybe we should end now because I need you. You wanted me to be happy in the relationship.
I knew this was going to end up this way. Anyway.
All right. So,
any other pieces about mismatched sex drive?
I'm sure there's other things, but if folks have questions, send them to us. Let us know. One other thing I want to mention to you, we're going to be doing one of our favorite things, which is those question and answer things. And we're going to do a should I stay or should I go episode coming up.
Yes.
So if you have any questions about this is what's going on in your relationship, should I stay or should I go? Understand we're going to have some fun with it, but we're going to try to give honest answers. Send your questions into us at db@davidbulitt.com, db@davidbulitt.com.
Or go to our website. You can reach us there, which is www.thebullets.com. And don't forget to subscribe to hear all of our podcasts.
Please follow, subscribe to the podcast. We're really, really having a good time with this. And we will see you next time on
Conversations for Couples, the podcast.
There we go. All right. She got it. All right. See you next time. Julie Bulitt is a professionally licensed clinical social worker and family therapist. David Bulitt is a divorce and family lawyer. Julie is not your therapist, and David is not your lawyer. This podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only.